What's up, fellas and ladies and gentlemen? It's time for Wake Up Mintzy, presented by the fine folks of Dude Wipes. Let it rip with Dude Wipes. Check out their Pumpkin Spice Dude Wipes. Is perfect for the fall. Amazon, Target, Walmart, nationwide. Dude Wipes here to clean all your messes. Let it rip. They're taking over the toilet paper world. And you know what else? I mean, they're cleaning up all the messes from last weekend that are still just fresh. It's Wednesday morning here on Wake Up Mintzy. I'm chugging some Stella Blue coffee. Shout out Stan's Donuts. They carry Stella Blue locally. Always shop local. Got to support them. They got the Stella Blue, positive vibes only. And that's exactly what I need this week. Because I'm still shook. I'm 41 freaking years old. And this game is 4 days ago, and I'm still feeling the lingering black cloud of the Ole Miss choke at LSU on Saturday night. But you know what? The sun's out today. Fall's in the air. It was a crisp day. It's time to get on with my freaking life because you can't dwell on the past. And let's make some damn money. And to do that, we got Tyler Moody here from Louisiana who's just smoking the MLB playoffs on DraftKings. And I'm hot in the college football. I'm doing the best. Hell, I mean, people aren't talking about it. They should be. I'm the best college football gambler in this company right now. I'm going to do a deep dive on all my gambling records and analytics. But last night, hit the over 49 and like only in America, baby. Louisiana Tech, New Mexico State from Las Cruces, New Mexico, hit the over with New Mexico State winning 33-30. But we're red hot. I'm trying to turn the page, get on with my life, because sitting around and dwelling on Ole Miss losing at LSU for the 5,000th time in a row is not going to do anybody any good. And as you can tell, it's not shaking me at all anymore 4 days later. Clearly, I've moved on with my life. We're waiting on Moody. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, as you said, Moody, I mean, you were in Death Valley Saturday night. Can't you tell I'm over it now 4 days later? I'm not talking about it at all. It never happened. You know, Ole Miss, it just life goes on, right? Clearly, I'm not dwelling on it.
Yeah, it was just a bad dream, and now you've woken up and you're back on with your life. You're not thinking about what happened and that sad face that you had walking out of the stadium. I mean, when Mintz made it back, I beat Mintz back to the house. When he made it back, he was so dejected. I've never seen you so sad, I don't think, to be honest with you. I really don't think I've ever seen you so sad for about a 3 to 4 hour stretch.
Yeah, no, it's the walk home, dude. I'm telling you, we all talk about like the walks of shame and you hear it about girls leaving guys' houses and all that kind of stuff. This walk home that I dealt with from Death Valley back to my buddy's house off Perkins Road in Baton Rouge, Moody, there's never been a walk of shame like this. I mean, it started in the concourse when I got shoved pretty hard. And like I said, I mean, what a lucky dude. I said it yesterday on the show. I mean, how lucky is that guy that I'm a 41-year-old middle-aged overweight lover and not a fighter? I mean, or I might have actually done something about it. Who knows?
You're lucky. He's lucky that you didn't treat him like that Redskins fan and the Ravens
Commanders
guy.
fan?
Or the Commanders fan, whatever. I know. I always call him that. That's on me. But you know what I'm talking about, though. The guy that knocked the kid out and is going to be going to jail now, the Jack Callis guy. Have you seen that?
I did.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Well, that could have been me. But that walk home, I'm telling you, it was like an hour walk home. It was like just the biggest comedy I've ever seen. I mean, I must have heard 100 F-bombs. I got called every name under the sun. The funniest one was when the dude got out of his car and screamed that I'm from Louisiana and I'm a traitor to the state, which that one kind of cracked me up, to be honest. But whatever. You know what? Clearly I'm not dwelling on it, and I'm over it 4 days later, and it's time to get on with my life. We're going to talk, so MLB playoffs, bunch of stuff to get to. My process every week, and this is why I've been doing well gambling, is on Tuesdays, I spend like an hour and a half doing a deep dive with one of my best friends who walked on at LSU and is really good at gambling. Shout out Cassidy King. And we do the deep dive, and it's kind of like failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And it's like all about getting those opinions on Tuesday, and then they evolve as the week goes on and all that. But I've been getting a really good feel for it. I did my deep dive on DraftKings yesterday, so we're going to go over that. But before we get to that, Moody, Major League Baseball playoffs. Last night, Yankees go up 2-0. I got to give a shout-out to Moody because, like I said, I always claim I don't know really anything about MLB, but I've been riding Moody's opinions, and I've been smoking the MLB playoffs. Had the Yankees minus a run and a half in games 1 and 2. Just feels like, looking at this series, I mean, Cleveland obviously in must-win spots in games 3 and game 4. Can they come back in it? It just seems like they don't have enough offense.
No, there's no chance they have enough offense. We as baseball fans do not need to see the Guardians into the next round. We don't need to see it. I'm not a Yankees fan by any means. I love watching the Yankees lose. I have zero interest in the Yankees, but I think it is so much better for Major League Baseball if we have Shohei Ohtani against Aaron Judge in the World Series. I think it's the best thing that could happen to Major League Baseball. We haven't had a matchup like this in the World Series in a long time. I want to see the Yankees through just for the overall competitiveness of the World Series. And I just don't think the Guardians have that. I don't think they can make this a good World Series if they make it through. And I don't think they have a chance of coming back in this series. They don't have the bats. Last night, they had so many opportunities to blow that game open. It felt like they had bases loaded for 5 straight innings. They could do nothing with it. Yankees went on to win, 6-2, I think was the final.
6-3.
6-3.
Well,
That's
it was
right.
ironic. Well, it was
Yeah.
ironic because Jose Ramirez is their best bat, and he's hitting like 130 in the playoffs, and then he finally hits a home run when they're down 4 in the ninth, a meaningless solo one, and that just kind of snake bit because they've been waiting on him to break out so much, and then he hits a home run off Luke Weaver that like means literally nothing, and they lose 6-3. So Yankees up 2-0, going back to Cleveland. Got to be a massive favorite in that series. I mean, the Guardians, look, even though they beat the Tigers in that series, it's just their bats, man. I know they've got, Naylor's been struggling, and it just doesn't seem like they got enough offense to get it done. You never know. I mean, it's all, they got to win game. If they win game 3, at least it's like worth talking about again. But if they lose game 3, this thing's over.
All of the knocks on the American League Central that people had the entire season have ended up really playing themselves out. Yes, 3 of those teams did make it into the postseason because they were playing the White Sox half the time. But now that we've made it into the postseason, we're seeing all of their glaring deficiencies show up. None of them really had offense. They all had 1 or 2 starters. And after that, they had average bullpens. Everything about those teams was average, and now they're being exposed by a Yankees team that's better than average. I do not think the Yankees are the best team in baseball by any means, but I do think they could be the best team in the American League, and they're showing that right now against this very average Guardians team. That's just straight up. They're average on offense. Their starting pitching's been pretty average. They do have a good bullpen, but this is an average baseball team at best, and they're getting exposed.
Yeah, and it just seems like when you look at the American League, the sea parted for the Yankees this year because the whole thing was they just couldn't get through the Astros. And it's been over and over and over, and the Astros have made the World Series so many times and made 7 straight ALCSs. And it was just that was the albatross that was killing the Yankees for years. And then when the Astros fell off and lost that 2 out of 3 to the Tigers, this thing just broke wide open. And the Yankees just have to beat the Royals and Guardians to make the World Series. And it was, kind of a break for them that the rest of the AL, turned out to not be as good. You look at it, like I know the Orioles were good in the East this year, but then they obviously, fell in the 2 out of 3 series to the Royals, and that was probably a break because Yankees-Orioles would have been a lot of fun.
Yankees-Orioles would have been incredibly fun. We got to start talking about the Orioles as a team that just can't get it done when it matters. I mean, it's back-to-back seasons. I realized they ran into a very hot Rangers team last year, but you losing to the Royals, I mean, that's just not a spot that you should be losing if you're Baltimore, especially when your lineup is that deep. You went out and got starting pitching to open up the season. Like, they did everything right on paper, but they just may not have the guys that are gamers. I think time will tell on them. I think we'll see Baltimore have a good run at some point with this roster. But right now, they got to prove it.
Yeah, and they're young, too. I mean, I know it's 2 years, so you can always use that excuse so much. But Gunnar Henderson and Rutsch, they're going to be good for a while. They just got to win the division to get out of this 2 out of 3 thing because that's what's gotten them the last 2 years. So Yankees going back to Cleveland for Game 3. They're up 2-0. All right, the other series is the one that's fascinating to me. And you mentioned wanting to see Ohtani and Judge. But I think if you get Yankees-Dodgers or Yankees-Mets, baseball wins. I mean, either matchup is freaking classic. We hadn't had a Subway Series since the year 2000, which was a super famous one when Piazza had the broken bat and came after Clemens and all that. Yankees-Dodgers, you got the New York-LA rivalry. You got, the 2 biggest markets, Ohtani, Judge. You can't go wrong with either one of them, to be honest. And when you look at this series on that side of it, I feel like, everybody would think the Dodgers are probably a better team. But this damn Mets team, man, they just don't go away. And I know that, all the cheesy stuff, they got heart and all that, but you just never can count them out. And, I think, they got blown out in Game 1, like 9-0 or whatever, but then they win 6-3 Game 2. They split in L.A. Now they're going back to New York. They got it at 1-1. I mean, that's splitting in L.A., I feel like it's a win to start this thing for them. And now, they come back home. And when you look at this Dodgers team, I know they're probably a better team, but their starting pitching this year doesn't seem like it's quite
They're
as
hurt. That's the thing. Tyler Glasnow was I had Tyler Glasnow to win the National League Cy Young. And without Tyler Glasnow, one of the 3 best pitchers in the National League, this is a different Dodgers team. Because you would think, like, they're having to roll Walker Buehler, who has not been the same guy post injury that he had been pre. Like they're rolling him out there tonight. You could have Tyler Glass now on the hill, and you're a huge favorite now in the series if you have Yamamoto, Glass now, and like that. Those two as your top two are so damn good. But without Glass now, no Kershaw either. That's another thing that people really aren't talking about. Like Kershaw, even though he has run into injuries, when he has been on the field for the Dodgers, he's been one of the most consistent and best pitchers in baseball. So for LA to go into the postseason without either one of those guys is something not enough people are really talking about. And it's a glaring issue for me, and it opens the door for the Mets to possibly win this series. I don't think that they will, because I still think the Dodgers are a better team, and I think it's better for Major League Baseball to have Shohei Ohtani against Aaron Judge in the World Series. But it really is a difference maker to not have Tyler Glass now taking the ball as your ace, especially when you went out and got him to be your ace this offseason.
Well, yeah, when I look at it too, I know baseball, like you said, the Yankees-Dodgers are better. For Barstool, Yankees-Mets is like the greatest thing of all time, because our Mets crew and the streams and then the Yankees crew, what that'll do to the New York office, we can't ask for anything better than that. And so I'm pulling for that. Talking about tonight's game, 7:08 p.m. first pitch in New York. Citi Field going to be buzzing. Walker Buehler against Severino, former Yankee, now pitching for the Mets. The Dodgers are minus 115, slight favorite, over under 7.5. What thoughts you got? Because we're all riding them.
It's a little weird to me that it's 7.5. I think it should be 8. I'll be on the over here. I just don't think either one of these guys are pitching their best baseball right now, especially Walker Buehler. Walker did not look good on the back half of the season. I mean, he just, like I just said a second ago, he has not been the same guy post injury. I don't see Severino holding down this Dodgers lineup. Give me over 7.5. That is probably my favorite play. I'm going to deep dive on some of it. Ohtani's going to hit a home run here soon, so I'm going to keep betting Shohei Ohtani home runs until he hits one. I think tonight's a great spot for him to get one. So give me a Shohei Ohtani home run. It's probably at like plus 220, plus 240. It's not going to be great odds, but it'll be on my ticket for sure.
Well, you mentioned the Buehler thing because one of your biggest plays so far the playoffs was the Walker Buehler pitching Game 3 against the Padres, and you were huge on that over, which was like 7.5 or 8. That thing was 6-5 in the third. And that was the one where we had like a 60-something to 1 parlay out where we had a Tatis home run, and he hit it early. And then we had Dodgers pick 'em and an Ohtani homer left to hit the 60-something to 1. And then the Dodgers are down 6-5 in the fifth, and Ohtani bombs one to the track. I mean, like, literally, we were right there on it. But
Ohtani has hit 4 balls to the wall so far this postseason, by the way. So it's not like he's up there swinging and missing. I realize he's 0 for 19 with no one on base, which is absolutely absurd. But, like, 4 of those balls have been hit to the wall. So, like, he's putting good swings on the baseball still.
Well, right, I can't wait to watch this game tonight. I'm into it. I love when these baseball games are midweek it's almost like the weekend is just like this overkill where it's just like so tough during football when the games are Saturday, Sunday to watch them. But, man, this midweek baseball playoffs in October. And also shout out to last night, too. Like I said, the NCAA, for all their faults, and this started with the Maction thing, which is a big thing, Barstool thing in November. But, man, the Tuesday and Wednesday college football thing is awesome. I mean, I know it's straight to gen games with 12 people in the stands. But, I mean, I'm not watching these matchups unless they're on Tuesday and Wednesday night. It's brilliant for TV. And I stayed up till freaking after midnight watching whatever the hell that was in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Louisiana Tech, your alma mater, that, as the great Sean Fox always says, Tech gonna Tech. Man, they find ways to choke. I've never seen anything like it. They find ways to choke more than any school I've ever seen. And like last night, I had over 49 in that game. They were in New Mexico State, and I had the wrong side. It was like 0-0 early second. And then New Mexico State scores to make it 24-24, so I locked up the over with like a minute and a half left. Tech just walks right down the field before going into overtime, and they have a 26-yarder, and they get a bad snap and a shank on a 26-yarder to win the game. And the thing is I've seen that through the years with them so many times that I thought there was like a 60% chance he'd make a 26-yarder. That's how often they choke. And, like, I don't know. It was crazy. But
their teams, football, baseball, and basketball, they're always good but never good enough. The entire time I was there, we would have a bowl-eligible team lose the bowl game. We'd have a chance to win the conference, lose the big game. Like, Tech just finds ways to lose when it matters. Like, it's football, baseball, basketball, doesn't matter. Track, I don't care. Like the Tech could have a 100-yard lead in the 400 meters or whatever and fall down and find a way to lose it in track. Like, that's who they are. They just find ways to lose even whenever everything is working in their favor. And now they're in a worse spot than they have been. I would say Louisiana Tech's teams are not quite where they've been, and there seems to be a downtrend across the board, in my opinion.
No, I tweeted it.
Baseball's okay, but
I know. We're not going to spend too much time on this because I know North Louisiana is a segmented, but they won bowl games for 6 years in a row, 2015 to 2020. They had the most G5 players in the NFL with 20 at one point. I mean, they were like a factory. When they had Joe Sloan calling the offense and they had Blake Baker calling the defense, who are now the OC and DC at LSU. They were on Skip Holt's staff. They had an incredible staff. I mean, they had that thing freaking rolling, and now they're terrible. Sonny Cumbie sucks. And they're in a terrible conference at CUSA. If they need to get to the Sun Belt, but they've burned those. Anyway, all right, that's enough Louisiana Tech. All right, because I know nobody cares. All right. Anyway, so looking ahead, there's a couple games tonight. Whatever, I'm gonna. It's like FIU, UTEP, and Western Kentucky, Sam Houston. I'm gonna look it up. I just got the fever because I've been hot in football. We'll go ahead and jump. So I did my deep dive. We'll talk some college football. I'll run through this college football now, and then we'll talk some NFL. As always, DraftKings. Deposit $5, you get $200 with a $5 bet with DraftKings. We're proud DK partners. Also, check out all their boosts. They have opt-in bets with like boosted parlays, all kinds of stuff that are just so much fun and great value for the customers. Love DK and really enjoying our partnership with them. The app's top-notch, and as is the service and everything. All right, running through these college games, I'm going to touch on the big ones. Look at the DraftKings lines for the week and give an early thoughts. Boston College +7 at Virginia Tech Thursday night. Would lean BC +7 if anything, but VTech will be turned up with Enter Sandman. Over under 49 seems like a touch high because both teams are going to try to run the ball and have mobile quarterbacks. Florida State's at Duke. Dude, Moody, this Florida State season. I mean, Duke's a 3-point favorite over Florida State after Florida State was number 9 preseason. And I still kind of like Duke. I mean, that's how bad.
Has there been a team that was expected to be one of the best teams in the country and fallen off so hard like Florida State in recent years?
I feel like LSU the year after 19 was like that. You know, when they had the best team ever in 19.
Yeah, that's fair.
Miles Brennan got hurt like second week, but they were. I mean, they went from, they were like 5. They went from best team ever to like 5-5 or something like that. All right, I'm not gonna waste some more time. All right, Friday night. Hear me out. Everyone's gonna laugh. You'll laugh too because you know this program. All right, we got to talk about this Oregon game up in Purdue. Why would you ask? You say Purdue, one of the worst teams in the country, fired their offensive coordinator, lost to Wisconsin 52-6 2 weeks ago. Well, they fired their OC, and then they lost to Illinois in overtime. They looked a little better last week. Oregon off like one of the biggest wins in school history, 32-31 over Ohio State. They're number 2 in the country. I'm not saying Purdue can win this game as a 27.5-point underdog. But I'm probably going to have to sprinkle the 16-1 money line just a touch. Just a touch. Because the spot is brutal for Oregon. Off that huge win, especially if it's like freezing at Purdue, Friday night, short week. Purdue's beaten a bunch of top 5 teams at home historically. This is a bad Purdue team. But it seems like a spot for a sluggish effort for Oregon off the Ohio State game. That's all I'm saying. It just looks a little ratty. Purdue's
I could see it. It's a letdown spot. Trap game, right? I mean, I don't think there's any way that Oregon loses that game personally. I think Dan Lanning has them really focused right now. I don't think there's any chance they lose at Purdue. I'll be honest.
15, probably going to get a $10 bet at 15-1 money line on Purdue.
I hear you.
So
Look, it's worth the gamble.
Little sprinkle. It reminds me, so there was this game in 2011. There was a Thursday night game where Oklahoma State was like, that was their best team with Gundy, and they were on the path to play the national championship game. And they were a 27.5-point favorite at Iowa State in Ames, Iowa on a Thursday night. And I took Iowa State 16-1 money line for $50, and they won. And this is like the exact same line on a weeknight, kind of similar situation. It just reminds me.
Do you think that Dan Lanning on that play late in the game with like 6 seconds left, do you think that, or 10 seconds left, do you think that he did that on purpose?
Yes.
Is that like you think? Okay, that's confirmed.
He said, I mean, they're like supposedly like getting in trouble for it.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, how about you can't take away the win?
It's if he did it on purpose,
dude,
it's flat out.
He knows
genius.
the rules, dude. I mean,
That's genius, man.
Yeah, no, but what a win last week for Oregon. Look, they'll probably win against Purdue. I mean, they're obviously a million times better team. Just looks, when I look at gambling, it's a rat spot. It's a short week, you're traveling, cold. You just got up for your biggest game. It's a week-to-week thing. So that's the only thing I'm saying. BYU up to number 13, one of the surprise teams in the country. 9.5-point favorites over Oklahoma State. Dude, BYU's the best team in America against the spread. 6-0. Never thought I'd see the day where the Mormons are riding this awesome Jewish quarterback, too. Like, it's crazy, but it's working. As long as he doesn't have sex pregame, I'm sure, everything's good. But either way, they're 9.5-point favorite over. Dude, Oklahoma State may be the most disappointing team in America. They were hyped up to be one of the best teams in the Big 12, and they suck. They're horrible. So I kind of lean BYU there, and BYU's a weird place to go. I'm just touching on the big games. 11 a.m. I say it all the time. I've been saying it on Twitter all year. We're all grateful that we live in a world where 2024 Indiana football takes the field every Saturday. It's the best. It's one of the most fun things ever. Kirk Cignetti, coming from James Madison, brings 14 starters, lets the quarterback, who's pretty good, go to Texas State, upgrades the Roark from Ohio, and they're rolling. Dude, Bloomington, Indiana is the place to be on Saturday. 11 a.m., Nebraska coming in with Rayola and Matt Rule doing a little better, certainly improved. Indiana's a 6.5-point favorite. You can't go against Indiana. They're both off buys. This Indiana bunch, I don't know if they can win the Big Ten because it's going to be a little too much maybe of a step up, but they have to play Ohio State or Oregon. I'm pissed I don't have them like 100 or 200 to 1 to win the Big Ten because this summer we were on the over 5.5 preseason. I bet them every single week except at Northwestern because I thought it was a weird road favorite spot. And, Moody, I'm a fool for that because this Indiana team came out. The over-under was 40 and they scored 41. They're a juggernaut. And I like them on Saturday against Nebraska. They're going to keep this thing rolling, man. And Rayola is a freshman quarterback on the road. I think he might make some mistakes, as talented as he is. Miami by 5 at Louisville. This Miami bunch, have you gotten to see them play any this year?
A little bit. I still follow Mario Cristobal just because when he was at Oregon, I was there, got a chance to interview him a few times, and he seems like a legitimately good guy. So I'm cheering for Mario. But Miami. Yeah, they're interesting. I like Cam Ward, man.
I love Cam Ward.
I have never seen a quarterback so damn comfortable back there with the football in his hands. He looks like he's doing everything in slow motion sometimes, but like his presence in the pocket, his ability to move the pocket and feel comfortable and look comfortable, man, I don't know that I've ever seen a quarterback look that comfortable back there as Cam Ward does.
Well, he looks like a guy that's 24 or 25 and played 8 years of college football.
Yeah,
no. When you watch the U this year, and the offense is great, Cam Ward, one of the front runners for Heisman, he's brought a whole new energy. He reminds me a little bit, he's not as fast or as quick as him, but his arm slot's really similar to Kyler Murray. Like the way he throws it and the way the ball comes out. He's not as fast. He can move, but he's not that. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. But watching Miami play this year, look, they're undefeated. They're number 6. They got a shot to win the ACC. I think Clemson's definitely a better team. But it's unreal that they're undefeated. Their defense sucks, dude. You watch them play, and you think of, the U teams, and when obviously they're getting compared to, the great U teams, they are slow on defense. You watch them. That's something, when you're watching them on TV, they ain't moving quick on D. And they, allowed 30, they're now 35-10 at Cal. They beat Virginia Tech 38-34. They're winning because Cam Ward in this offense. They got good receivers. They do have a really good offense. But they're, exposed almost every week is how bad their defense is. They're a 5-point favorite at Louisville. They are off a bye, but Louisville still pretty tough at home. I know they blew that SMU game. I'm looking at over 61 here because I think you can look at over in every single game that the Miami Hurricanes take the field this year. That's how wild. These games are getting in the high 30s. Because Cam Ward, he still may throw an interception or two because he's kind of a gunslinger. But, man, he'll bring them back anytime. They got good receivers, and their defense stinks. So, I'm looking at over 61 in that one as long as the weather's not too bad. I don't have much to say about Auburn, Missouri. I'm not going to, I'm going to try to get through these and only talk about the bigger ones. Same with South Carolina, Oklahoma. All right, Bama. Let's talk about this Bama, Tennessee. It's the third Saturday in October. Bama, 3-point road favorite, over under 56.5. Both Bama and Tennessee, the last few weeks have been a little rough for both these teams for what people thought they were. There's real kinks in the armor. Bama losing as a 23-point road favorite at Vandy, almost losing as a 21-point home favorite against South Carolina. Still think Milroe, really good quarterback, can run, throw. Love Ryan Williams, a 17-year-old. Obviously, feel good about Bama's line. I still feel good about Bama's offense, to be honest. It's just the defense, I think, isn't, and we knew, like we talked about this before the year, how much their defense is going to fall off without Saban. This doesn't surprise me. Maybe it's falling off a touch more than I thought. I don't trust them laying 3 on the road right now, especially in Neyland. Tennessee turns it up at home. I mean, Tennessee and LSU, to me, are the most turned up places at home, period. Like, those two fan bases get rowdier than anybody. But then the Tennessee side of it, it kind of almost reminds me a little bit of the Ole Miss thing, where Tennessee and Ole Miss both run these like up-tempo spreads, and when they play bad teams, they beat them by like 70. But then when they run into good teams, the lines are like inflated because of how big their power rankings are, because they just kill all these bad teams. Man, Tennessee's offense has really looked bad. Like, even going to the Oklahoma game, then they, the Arkansas game, they got shut down. And then last week, winning against Florida 23-17 in overtime, the shines come off Nico. However, they're just, if this game was at Alabama, I'd like Bama, but it's just at Tennessee and how turned up it's going to be. I mean, it just feels like it's going to be a close game to the wire. I think I slightly lean Tennessee in the points.
I think I still like Alabama here just because of Tennessee's offense has not looked good. I think Alabama's the more explosive team, and unless Tennessee finally decides to show up on offense at home, I think Bama finds a way to get it done, honestly.
It's weird. It's just like this SEC. So my old boss, ESPN Baton Rouge, who I love, Gordy Rush, and I had a big talk Friday night in Baton Rouge about the current state of the SEC and kind of as it relates to gambling. And the point he made really stuck out to me, and it was that we're in this NIL era now where the top teams really, you don't see a 2019 or LSU or 2020 Bama because nobody has the depth, because if people are on the bench, they transfer. And so, you went into this year saying, these like Georgia and Bama and Ole Miss and Texas, these teams are like so much better than your South Carolinas and Vandy's and Kentucky's. They're not. Every week, it's week to week. And then what that does, Moody, is look at the value in the double-digit underdogs in the SEC. Look what's happened the last few weeks. I mentioned Bama, 21-point favorite over South Carolina, 24 over Vandy. Tennessee losing outright, 14-point favorite at Arkansas. Laying 16 to Florida. I mean, Ole Miss losing as a 15.5-point favorite to Kentucky. There's value in these SEC underdogs. Vandy winning as a 12.5-point favorite against Kentucky. And I think it's going to keep happening because there's parity. It's a week-to-week league right now, and especially on the road, I think that's something to watch for. It's just the underdogs in general in these SEC games. I mean, I think it's a real thing. But looking forward to that Bama-Tennessee game, obviously. Notre Dame and Georgia Tech kind of jumped out to me when I saw it, but the problem is Notre Dame's a 12-point favorite in Atlanta. Look, Georgia Tech has an identity. This is a team that plays, when they're favored, they play down to everybody. When they're an underdog, they fight. They just play close games. However, really monitoring QB Haynes King's status. If he's out, which I think he might be on Wednesday, I'm a little off Georgia Tech. But if he plays, I'm taking Georgia Tech underdog and money line because I think Notre Dame's known to play close games too, especially because Riley Leonard's not a good passer. Running through the board, a few other ones. Also, one other gambling trend to monitor that's been talked about a lot, and this probably makes a lot of sense. I'm curious what you think of this. These cross-country trips in this new world in the ACC, Big 12, and Big 10. Dude, these teams that are having to do these 2-hour cross-country trips are getting smoked against the spread. I mean, it's almost at a point where you can just look at the matchup and just take the right side of the time zone thing, and you're on the right side of it. And this week, there's a few, NC State going cross-country to Cal, Arizona State going cross-country to Cincinnati, a few others. But it makes sense. I mean, you're changing 2 time zones. You've got a lot of these West Coast teams playing these 11 a.m., these 9 a.m. kickoffs on their clock. I mean, it's this crazy new world we're in, but I think it's a real thing. And, I mean, does that make sense to you?
No, the numbers would seem to suggest that it's making sense. I mean, they're really struggling right now. If I'm a head coach, I'm getting out there 2 or 3 days early. Like, I take your classes online, whatever. We're getting out there a few days early, and we're going to go ahead and get acclimated. I just think that's the one thing that's going to have to get adjusted for these teams that are making these long trips is get out there a little bit earlier, let your guys get settled into that time zone, and I think that could be a difference maker. But, yeah, you're right. It has been a trend so far early on in the season. I'm curious to see if that holds up. The sample size is still a little too small right now for us to say, okay, this is a definitive thing, but it's kind of leaning that way.
Well, okay, and here's one to mention on that front. USC who, look, I was all over USC last week. It was 5.5 to start. It went to 3.5. They covered. They lost 33-30 to Penn State. They blew a 2-touchdown lead.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, though, was the coup d'etat moment for Lincoln Riley. They were off. They lost at Minnesota. They had lost at Michigan. They were back home with Penn State in a spot where they'd lost as a road favorite. Bounce back game. Penn State going cross country. That was the bounce back effort spot of the season. And for them to blow that game, it could get bad at USC. You could be looking at like a 6-6 kind of situation now because they're 3-3. And, I know they beat LSU week 1, but that feels 6 months ago at this point. Now that doesn't matter anymore. And you know how demoralized they got to be after blowing that Penn State game? And now, I know Maryland's not good. They lost at home to freaking Northwestern last Friday. However, what's USC's morale here? Because USC, and this is also a thing that needs to be discussed in college football. In this NIL era where the players are getting paid, none of these players, these schools are there to have pride and go 8-4 anymore. There's no value in that. They're either playing for the playoffs or they're not going to care. And it's going to be a hard thing for all these schools to fight. And USC traveling cross country to Maryland is a 7-point favorite. Maryland's still going to be excited about playing the Trojan on their helmet and having a home game against them. Look out for that. I mean, this thing could get really bad at USC right now. And Miller Moss has disappointed me this year. He had a 6-touchdown game against Louisville in the bowl game. When you look at Lincoln Riley's track record developing quarterbacks, and he has a lot of junior receivers, I had higher expectations for him this year, and I think he's been disappointing. And I'm looking out for Maryland to Maryland's such a weird team, though. They'll either lose by 5 touchdowns or they'll win. They're just so volatile. But that's one I'm looking at. And the underdog money line's a thing. All right, Colorado to Arizona. Travis Hunter hurt his shoulder last week, but he's going to play. Colorado's plus 3.5. I've been going against Arizona like every week all year. They got me at Utah, but I've made money against them at BYU, at Kansas State, Texas Tech. I'm going to keep doing it. Look, I think they're fraudulent. They had a really good year last year. They lost their coach. They're soft. This is a good matchup for Colorado because Arizona's not big. The teams Colorado has trouble with is the teams that are tough to line of scrimmage, and Arizona ain't that. So I like Colorado and I like over in that game. Let's see if there are any other ones. One thing to mention, I know they're not good, but got to give Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State some credit because after they got blown out 41-17 by Toledo and blown out at home by Florida, it looked like this thing was really headed for the crapper. They fought at Texas and they fought at Georgia in games that they were like 31 and 38 point underdogs, easily covered. They're not good, but they do have some heart and they're fighting and they're improving. And I think there's something to be said for that. I'm no Mississippi State fan, but they lost like their whole roster. Obviously, Mike Leachstein is gonna be hanging over that program forever. But they are fighting, and A&M's giving them 15.5 at Starkville. A&M's off a bye, but I don't know. That seems like a lot of points on the road in the Southeastern Conference, and that's what I've been saying about these SEC games.
You just made me think about something. It has nothing to do with this game. Whenever I was standing in line in Baton Rouge to go to the porta potty on Saturday, there was a Mississippi State student wearing Ole Miss gear.
What?
Yes. So I was like, "Oh, you go to Ole Miss?" He's like, "No, I go to Mississippi State." And I was like, "Brother, that's blasphemy, right? Like, how do you feel about that, Mintz?"
That's wild.
Yeah.
I know how Brandon Walker feels about that. That would,
I would be ashamed to be a part of Mississippi State in any way as well. I understand why this kid would rather wear Ole Miss gear than Mississippi State. I don't know if there's any other school in the SEC that you would want to be associated with less than Mississippi State. They're just bottom of the barrel bad in a lot of that was bad on this kid's part.
Dude, that's a confused kid, right? That's a confused kid right there. I guess maybe he's like an ag student because the Mississippi State's got like great agriculture and engineering. Maybe he's just there for that. And Ole Miss, I don't know. That's crazy. But A&M, Mississippi State still catching 15.5. At A&M, I know it's a different era of Mike Elko, but dude, they've had a lot of trouble with Ole Miss and State under Jimbo. And I know it's it's like this weird thing where you're like analyzing the past and trends and stuff, but then it's also new coaches, new NIL year. I think the past still matters. I definitely think you saw it in Baton Rouge Saturday night for Ole Miss. So I don't know. I'm looking at State plus 15.5, even with A&M off the bye. That's just a lot of points. And A&M's really tough at the line of scrimmage. I think they are. But the quarterback play, like Wegman, has been hurt the last 2 years. I know he's playing. I don't know about their explosive passing game. So I think State might can fight here plus 15.5. It's a lot of points. All right, LSU at Arkansas. Brutal spot for LSU. This thing opened at LSU by 3. Now they're 2.5. My instincts love Arkansas immediately in this game. 6 o'clock game. It's going to be colder, but it looks like it's going to be in the 50s. It's not going to be like too crazy because those South Louisiana kids hate when it's freezing up in the mountains. But, Arkansas always fights LSU. Even when they suck, they fight LSU. And when you look at like how LSU is built as a team, I mean, I feel like they won that game Saturday night because it was in Death Valley and some voodoo. Arkansas this year, and everybody thought they were going to be terrible. They are not bad. They fought They should have won the Oklahoma State game. They fought A&M to the end. They won at Auburn. They upset Tennessee at home. They play hard as hell. They do. And everybody thought, and including me, hand up, I thought Pittman was going to get fired after the Tennessee game, and they'd put Petrino in on this bye week before LSU because I thought they might be like 2-5 at this point, and they're nowhere near that bad. And this game against LSU at home, LSU off an emotional win. You look at LSU's, I think Arkansas is very physical at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I know their quarterback got banged up and took a shot to the knee, so we got to monitor that. And their running back Jackson, the Utah transfer, got banged up last game, but they should be good to go off the bye. I mean, I'm Arkansas or nothing in this game. I can tell you that. LSU at Arkansas this week, at A&M next week, they got to hope to go 1-1. I mean, you really got to be realistic about things right now. I lean Arkansas. I'm kind of mad I didn't get it at 3 now that it's 2.5. But, this is that thing, man. It's a trap road favorite spot. I don't see how you can be very confident if you're LSU this week. And, I don't think this is I think LSU fans will tell you this is not one of their better teams. They could still have an 8-4, 9-3, pretty good season, but they're still on track for the playoffs with 1 loss. But they got at Arkansas, at A&M, by Bama at home next three games. I mean, if they go 2-1, they got a shot to finish 10-2 because the schedule. They do have Vandy coming in and Oklahoma coming in later, but they got to win 2 out of these 3 to have a shot to finish with 2 losses and a playoff berth. But I don't know.
But this is the game, man. Every LSU can find a way to lose to Arkansas if they're the best team in the country. It doesn't matter. This is probably the one game that scares LSU fans the most. I was talking to 2 of my buddies. One of them was a pitcher at Arkansas, and then one of them went to LSU. We were talking last night while we were playing Warzone. The LSU fan is scared to death, and the Arkansas fan thinks that they have their best shot of beating LSU this year. So I don't know. I would lean Arkansas in this game. This is a spot for Tiger fans to be terrified. This is the definition of a trap game in the SEC.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And dude, I'm telling you, Fayetteville is a weird place to go on the road in October and November. Yep. I mean, it's up in the mountains,
and they will show up for this game. They'll be there.
They'll show up, dude. They're fired up. Like I said, man, everybody, including me, hated on Pittman, and he's done a damn good job this year. They play really freaking hard, and they finally broke through against Tennessee, and now they got some confidence that they can close the game because they were just choking at the end of the game so much. All right, game of the week, Austin, Texas. Lot to get to here. Georgia at Texas. How about Austin, Texas this weekend, Moody? Georgia at Texas, Formula One. Center of the universe. Crazy. I can't imagine how wild it's going to be. Texas, 4-point favorite, 56. All right, hear me out. Every single person I've talked to has Texas anointed as the number 1 team in college football right now. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be ranked number 1. But I still am one of the only people that's saying I got to see more. And they blew out Oklahoma 34-3 in a rivalry game last week. Dominated. Blew out Michigan at Michigan. Dominated. They've looked the best. However, there's one thing I still got to see from them before I'm willing to just anoint them. They're down to 4-1 to win the national title right now. You look at this Texas roster. Sark, learning from Pete Carroll and Nick Saban, 2 of the best program builders of all time. Built this thing. Texas was always soft in the trenches. He has this junior class of offensive linemen. There's 4 of them that are awesome, and that's kind of been their Achilles heel through the years. So they're tough up front. Love the quarterback when Ewers is healthy. They got the skill guys. Up front, they're tough on defense, like that. My one question on them is still how is the secondary when they play a passing quarterback? And Michigan and Oklahoma both can't throw, period. Can't throw at all this year. No passing games. And that's my one question on Texas going in the year. They didn't experience secondary. Michigan and Oklahoma couldn't expose it, but neither quarterback could really throw a forward pass. Carson Beck can chunk it. That's my one thing about going into this game. Can Texas's secondary stop Carson Beck, and how will they deal with that Georgia passing game? And if Texas comes out and blows Georgia out, like a lot of the people I respect think they will, then they're number 1, and there's no question about it. This game this week, a lot of people I know love Texas here. And look, when you look at Georgia, dominant week 1 against Clemson, 34-3. Since then, it's been rough. 13-12 over Kentucky. You know, we all saw them lose the Bama game. They lost, but they were down 4 touchdowns early. You know, didn't cover against Auburn, sluggish effort. Beat Mississippi State by 10. I mean, this hadn't, other than week 1, this hasn't looked like a Georgia Kirby Smart football team. They've got all this behind, you know, people keep getting arrested. There's all kinds of stuff behind the scenes. So it kind of feels like, you know, I don't know on them, but I'm still, I mean, I lean Texas, but I'm not in love with it. I don't know. I'm a little guarded here, and I think I'm like one of the only people that's saying that.
I mean, I could see Texas winning this game pretty easily, honestly. I do think they're the best team in the country right now. I don't think any other team deserves to be number 1. I'll tell you this. This is what I'm doing. I'm hoping that Ohio State's odds to win the national championship keep falling, because I still think they're the best team in the country. I know they lost to Oregon, but that's a tough place to play. Going to Autzen and win is very difficult. I still think Ohio State's the best team in the country.
No, look, they lost by 1 to the number 2 team in the country in a thriller, and yeah. I completely agree. I actually, before the year, said they would lose that game and then maybe play them in a Big Ten championship rematch and beat them, and I think that maybe coming. But hey, dude, you got to watch out because Indiana. I mean, somebody's got to beat Indiana. Indiana plays Ohio State too soon.
This Indiana thing's not as real as y'all think it is.
It's fun. It's fun. No, it's so fun. It's fun, dude. All right, quick one I'm touching on. Iowa State's going to beat Central Florida by like 4 or 5 touchdowns. That game, UCF, and I love S.J. Tui and Malzahn, and they're great friends of the program and all that. They're kind of soft at the line of scrimmage. Ames, Iowa's going to be freezing cold, and Iowa State's going to run it down their throat, and that's going to be a blowout. That's the blowout of the week. Even Iowa State laying 14, that one's going to get bloody, unfortunately, for our guys. But that's kind of let's see if there's any other games. Let's
talk some NFL here. We've beaten college football into the damn ground. Let's move on, bro.
All right, let's do it. All right, NFL going into this week. Thursday Night Football, the ghost of the New Orleans Saints. Moody, this Saints thing. I mean, are they even fielding an NFL team at this point? Rashid Shaheed get
33% of their roster is injured, by the way. 33%, allegedly. That's what
the offense. No Taysom Hill, no Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed gets hurt on a no-contact injury running a route with 20 seconds left when they're down by 24 points. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Their top 2 linemen are out. Derek Carr's out. I mean, Denver's favored by, it's all the way up to Denver by 2.5. You know Sean Payton wants to beat them. I mean, I can't take the Saints right now.
I'm staying away from this because I want Denver to be good. I was on here last week saying, oh, Denver's a good team. They're going to be challenging for the AFC West down the stretch. I don't know that that's the case. I do think that they can win this game, but they got to prove it to me. It's still tough to go into the Superdome and win. I know Tampa Bay did it, but it's still a tough place to go play, especially for a rookie quarterback. There's a difference between Baker Mayfield and Bo Nix right now. And I think the Saints, even though their defense hasn't looked good, could still expose Bo Nix.
All right. Okay. We'll go through. We're hitting it. We still got like 10 minutes. All right. Any thoughts at all on the crappiest London game, Patriots-Jaguars? Jaguars still a full 5.5 is wild with how they play.
I think Jacksonville wins that game. I think this is the best spot for them. I don't know if you saw how many touchdown passes Jacksonville dropped. Trevor Lawrence is playing better football than Trevor Lawrence is getting credit for right now. He had 4 perfectly thrown balls that were dropped. So, like, all of them for touchdowns. I don't know. I think Jacksonville wins this game. I think they win handily. I love Jacksonville. I'm don't really care about the game, but I love Jacksonville -5.
They're staying over in London, too, so that probably helps because they've had back-to-back London games. All right, let's talk about the real games. The game of the week, I think. Detroit Lions at Minnesota. Whew, what a matchup, man. Undefeated Vikings. Lions have looked like the best team in football the last few weeks, but, man, that Aiden Hutchinson injury is a dagger on defense. He's going to be – maybe he could come back for, like, playoffs or Super Bowl. Maybe. Broken tibia, broken fibula. I mean, he's the leader of that defense. He's number 2 overall pick. Dude's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. I mean, you're going to feel that loss no matter what. I still think they're an elite team. I mean, on offense, they got literally everything. Best offensive line in the NFL. Amon-Ra's a stud, one of the top receivers. Jameson Williams taking the top off defenses. Elite tight end Laporta. I mean, 2 just stud running backs, Montgomery and Gibbs. Ben Johnson, maybe best offensive coordinator in football. They got it all on that side of the ball. Minnesota 5-0 off a bye. Minnesota 2.5 at home and 50. I think Detroit's probably a better team than Minnesota, but man, I just can't wait to watch this game. And I actually even like over 50.
Mm-hmm. I like over 50 as well. It's tough to say though because Minnesota's defense has been so good. They were like they're not really getting as much love, but they have found ways to turn the football over. Like their defense is creating tons of turnovers. Um, I don't know. I'm probably staying away from this one because I could see it going either way on both sides, Ben. I really could.
Well, one stat to watch: Justin Jefferson averages 146 yards against Detroit in his last either 6 or 8 games. So I know his props will be high, but look out for him. Another interesting game: Houston Texans plus 2.5 at Green Bay.
This is my favorite game of the week.
You like Green Bay?
I like Green Bay. I'm kind of getting on this Packers. Everybody is suddenly on Detroit and Chicago, right? And
Minnesota
really
too.
And Minnesota too. Everybody's giving the love to those teams, and they've kind of forgotten about Green Bay. And I think the best quarterback of all 4 of those teams is Jordan Love. He is spinning the ball really well right now. I personally think that Green Bay is the best team in that division, and nobody's giving them enough love. I think the Packers make a statement on Sunday. They beat the Texans. They move to 5-2, and they find a way to win this division in the end.
Yeah, I like them on Sunday too. I think they're just LaFleur is just dude. LaFleur is like people don't talk enough about how good a coach he is. Well, the way he developed Jordan Love last year, from how he started in the year and how hot they were, almost making the NFC Championship, and then he really showed it when Love went down. Malik Willis couldn't complete forward passes for Tennessee, and he went 2-0 with him. I mean, dude, yeah, I agree. I'm actually going to look at Green Bay futures because you're right. I think people are off the scent of that. Titans plus 9 at Buffalo. Any comments on Amari Cooper going to the Bills? I like that move.
I love it for the Bills. I was hoping Washington was going to go get Amari Cooper. I thought it made a ton of sense. But anyways, he ends up in Buffalo. Buffalo desperate for a number 1 receiver. This is a great move for everyone involved.
Yeah, and they didn't have to pay too big of a price either.
No.
Bills are 9 over Tennessee. I think that's too many points. Buffalo's run defense. I know, Tennessee, I know how bad they are, but I think Tennessee can run the ball, and like their defense plays pretty good, so I think I'd lean the points.
I don't know. I'm probably just staying away from it. It's one of those games that I don't care about. You know,
dude, Levis is hard.
Will Levis is awful. Tennessee is so not fun to watch. Like I don't even want to associate with them. I don't think I've bet on Tennessee the entire year. I just stay away from their games because they're ugly. I don't even want to have it on my TV.
Bengals 2-4 heading to Cleveland. Nick Chubb back, who's had a huge career against Cincinnati. Cincinnati a 6.5-point favorite. Obviously, the Browns, it's a total disaster with Watson. However, this one feels ratty to me because the Browns always beat the Bengals. This is one of those, like every year, certain teams struggle with other people, and the Bengals just always play like shit against Cleveland. And laying 6.5 full on the road, I'm not prepared to do it. That's my thoughts.
No. I kind of like Cleveland here, too. Everybody's fading Cleveland so hard. I kind of like the Browns a little bit, not a lot, but I've also been burned by the Browns twice already this year. So
no, they covered against Philly last week.
Yeah, but I didn't have them last week. I had them 2 of the weeks where they looked absolutely atrocious, and that was on me.
All right, Eagles by 3 at the New York Football Giants. Everybody talking about Saquon going back to New York. Dude, I still smell – there's been a whiff out of Philly all year that I'm still kind of smelling. And you saw Sirianni yelling at the fans. I sort of lean the Giants plus 3 at home here. Look, I know the Giants. We all know about the Daniel Jones thing. Neighbors should be back, which helps a ton. But they got a really good defensive line. I mean, they are tough up front. And I think they're going to be hyped up to play Barkley. And I don't know. I just kind of lean them as a home dog here.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't trust the Giants. You know me. I'm the biggest Daniel Jones hater that there is. He has been playing much better football as of late. Got to give him credit. Got to give Malik Neighbors a lot of the credit. But even without Neighbors last week, like Daniel Jones was competent. The Eagles tend to big brother the Giants, though, and I just kind of think we're going to see a little bit more of that. I lean Philadelphia in this game.
Okay. This one is going to be the fun fantasy props game that people are – I mean, the over-under is 51, but, dude, Seattle-Atlanta could get wild. We saw the Seattle-Detroit Monday night game that was 42-27 a couple weeks ago. I think this one – I don't know if it'll quite – Jared Goff went 18 for 18. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But Cousins cooks at home. Atlanta's red hot right now, won 4 in a row, scoring a ton of points. I think this game could be fun on the prop front. And when you look at – the receivers, I like JSN. You look at DK. I think both Geno and Cousins sling it for a lot of yards. This is going to be one where I'm doing like same-game parlays and boosting on DraftKings.
Yeah, just rip the over and hope that the trends continue, honestly.
Moody, you had a theory you talked about. I want to mention on that. Number 2 receivers in high-scoring games. I like that theory with props because when you do the adjusted overs and stuff, the number 2 guys always have so much more value. And like in this game, JSN and Mooney, I think, are worth discussing.
Well, and the other thing is like the number 2 receiver is never going to get doubled. Like that's just never going to happen. When you have a guy opposite of on the other side that's Justin Jefferson, like there is a high probability that he is going to see a double team 25+% of the game. You know what I mean? Like they're going to pay extra attention to Justin Jefferson. So guys like Jordan Addison, I think always have tons of value in these high scoring affairs. And so my DFS lineup this week is full of number 2 guys. Romeo Doubs, Jordan Addison, like these are the guys that I am looking at. Tyler Lockett is someone I think could have a game in this one. So like that's kind of one of my theories. It's worked very well for me. Hopefully that trend continues.
Man, I love football, boys. I'm just
Right.
dude, this is the best. Just going through all these games, I'm just having the. I mean, dude, I love DraftKings too. DK partner, the crown is yours. Miami +3 at Indy. Why the hell is Indy going back to Richardson here? I would have loved it. If Flacco was going, I know. If Flacco was going, I'd be all over Indy in this game, all over it. But now they're going Richardson. I just can't do it.
I think the problem is that Richardson has showed just enough at times for them to be like, oh, maybe he could be good if he gets enough reps. And I think they're going to end up finding out like, oh, maybe he wasn't good enough. You know
what's a shame?
That'll be what they find out.
I wish Miami could go to the Indy sideline and kidnap Flacco. Because if Flacco was slinging it from Miami with those receivers, it would be unbelievable what that would be in that offense. Because he can push it vertically down the field. Commanders 7.5 over Carolina 51.5. I feel like this could be another Commanders and over parlay thing that's been hitting all year. I like it again here. These Carolina games, dude. These Carolina games have been getting wild since Andy Dalton's been in there. Every one of them's flying over the total.
Yeah, and so is Washington. I think I've had Washington over for like 5 straight weeks, and I think it's hit 4 out of the 5. So I'm just going to keep taking it. It's been my number 1 bet pretty much every week.
Yeah, I agree. Don't have anything on Raiders Rams. Super Bowl rematch. Chiefs.
I like the Rams here. I think the Rams score a lot of points. I think Matthew Stafford, especially if Cooper Kupp is back, I think they're going to score a lot of points. I'm going to be taking the Rams team over in this game.
Okay, thank you. Because I was, we still got a couple minutes. Super Bowl rematch. Niners 1.5 over KC 47. Fun matchup here. Andy Reid off a bye. You never want to mess with that. That's for sure. Niners got to be wanting revenge, obviously, after that OT Super Bowl game. One question I have on this game. All right, the Chiefs. The offense looked crappy for weeks. They broke out against the Saints, and I thought maybe they'd figured something out until I saw the Saints allow 600 yards to Tampa. I think that might have been more the Saints are just horrible on defense. So that's a question going in. Kelsey's had better games the last couple weeks. I know Juju Smith-Schuster had 130, gave him something. On the Niners side, Jordan Mason, AC joint sprain, but he was non-contact practice out there, so that makes me think he's playing if he's, even in practice. A lot to get to in this game. Hard one to pick, for sure.
I love the under in this game.
Me too. Thank you, Moody.
Yes. Look, I'll tell you why. Because the 49ers, they need their run game. It is absolutely imperative for them to have the run game. And even if Jordan Mason plays, doesn't matter. Kansas City is the number 1 team right now in the NFL against the run. One of the top 3 across the board defensively, in my personal opinion. And they're going to put a ton of pressure on Brock Purdy in this game to be the man to beat Kansas City. And I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think Kansas City wins this game. But more importantly, I like the under here. And a lot of people saw Kansas City torch New Orleans. They're going to be thinking, oh, Kansas City's offense is back. And I do think they are better. But I don't think they're going to be good enough against the San Francisco defense. Love the under in this spot.
Yeah, and you look at the Super Bowl, it was low scoring most of it, and then, it ended up, overtime, it ended up kind of near the total. I think we're looking at like a 23-20 KC win here, something like that.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a grindy, physical, both teams are hyped up, Super Bowl matchup. So, all right, we got Sunday night, the debut of Devontae Adams going for the Jets. I got to understand this. I think Vegas has Vegas has a low power ranking on the Steelers because they went ugly so much. But the Jets laying 1.5 at 2-4 in Pittsburgh against 4-2 Pittsburgh. I felt like Pittsburgh would be, 1.5 or 2. I thought Pittsburgh would be like a slight favorite here. And I know Devontae Adams is there. But damn, Mike Tomlin is a home dog here? You want to go against him in this spot? But however, I would have rather them. I know. I would have stuck with Fields. I don't think this is a good move. I would have stuck with
Fields too. I think it's just bad timing. Fields has not lost that job. Like he's not the best quarterback in the NFL, but neither is freaking Russell Wilson.
No.
I don't know, man. I think it's bad timing. I think you had to do it coming off a loss. I think you had to have a game where Fields turned it over a couple times, looked like the old Justin Fields, and then you make the switch. Not whenever your team's clicking. I don't know. I think this is a bad move by the Steelers, and I think the Jets are going to make them pay for it.
And my thing on it, too, I'm inclined to think the same thing. And, obviously Fields is not a great passer, but he does give you something with his legs, and you can win with them. And I just think Russ is – and especially Russ is off this calf injury, and he's already older, so he's not really that mobile anymore. And he's not a good pass. I don't know, man. I agree. I think they're making a mistake here.
And look, I know Najee looked a little bit better running the football, but he's looked awful for 3 straight years. And I just don't – I don't know about the Steelers. There's not much there. I just think having Fields on the field gave them an extra element that Russ doesn't have anymore. I think it's a mistake. We'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah, and I think the 2 quarterback thing's about to eat up the fan base and cause all these problems. All right, Ray, 2 Monday night games. Thank you to NFL. Shout out. Loving there's a London game. Loving there's 2 Monday night games. I love this movement. We don't need 8 noon games. We need 5 or 6. We need more afternoon games. We need more football spread out. When there's 8 or 9 games at noon, it's overload. Can't have it. We want to watch football all the time. And so shout out to the NFL for doing this 2 Monday night thing. First one, Baltimore by 3.5 at Tampa, 48.5. My instincts like the Ravens here. They're on one. I think Tampa's like the good, pretty good team. I mean, they're 4-2. I think they're pretty good. I don't think they're elite, and I think the Ravens are too good for them. That's my thoughts.
Give me the over in this one. Both offenses have been playing great. Tampa's defense is still not very good. I like the over in this spot.
Yeah, the Ravens secondary has been allowing a lot of yards too.
They have.
I know. All right, and then finally, L.A. Chargers at Arizona. Chargers 2.5 and 44. I don't know on this one. My instincts sort of think Arizona with that line. But it seems like the Chargers are super professional, and when they're winning the games they're supposed to win, kind of in a weird way.
They are. No, they're playing very professional football. I think you just said that perfectly. They're just showing up. They're not impressing anyone with their play. They're efficient on offense. Justin Herbert's taking care of the football for the most part. Their defense has been good. Arizona's offense has taken a step back the last couple of weeks. I lean the Chargers in this spot, but you're right. The line's a little bit ratty. I could actually see this going under. I really could. I could see. I need to do a little deeper dive on it, but I can see the under happening here just because the Chargers defense has been good and Arizona feels like they're sputtering just a bit on offense.
Yeah, my only call on the prop thing, I could see. I'm feeling Quentin Johnson breakout here in this game in the desert. I think it's a spot for him. He flashed a lot early in the year, and then they played these grinding, low-scoring games. I think that on this turf, he had a huge. I know it's different, but he had a huge game against Michigan on that same field a couple of years ago in the playoff game. I feel like this could be a breakout spot. Moody, I freaking love talking MLB and NFL with you. You're my guy. You have been for 8-9 years. This is so much fun. Get on DraftKings. Check out the AWL, pardon my take, DFS League to play with us. Brandon Walker on tomorrow. We'll talk some college football with him. We got our Barstool Big Business up front tonight, so huge day in the office tonight. We're going to impress some 2025 clients. Let's have a day. Weather's great. Man, I love fall. Let's get some damn money this weekend on DraftKings. Shout out Still Blue and Dude Wipes, the partnership and collab of the century. Man, I love fall. The leaves are changing, football, and Stella Blue coffee. And this season, maple pumpkin pie. But my morning routine would not be complete without Dumpkin Spice Dude Wipes.
Oh, Mintzy, let it rip!
Cheers, furry fellas. Coffee that fuels you, wipes that clean you.